welcome everyone to the latest installment of the Borak series. I hope everyone has been faring well because I don't know about anyone else, but the weather has been quite unbearable for me. With that being said, in times of extreme weather fluctuations like now, the first thing that came to my mind was the plantation sector and whether or not there are opportunities to trade in palm oil stocks. So today, to help to answer that question, we have our plantation sector analyst, Mr. Chee Ting, with us today. Welcome on to the show, Chee Ting.
Thanks, Fifi.
So, Chee Ting, your latest plantation sector report mentioned something about the recent heat wave and the potential El Nino phenomenon. I'm curious to know more about whether this will affect our local plantation stocks, but let's go in stages. The first one, let's look first at the CPO prices. Will the recent heat wave have any effects on it?
Hi, Fifi. So we did a study of the past 5 El Ninos that has happened over the past 25 years. This goes as far back as 1997 to as recent as 2015 being the last El Nino recorded. So we analyzed the impact of El Ninos on CPO price from the onset of each El Nino. Before I lay down the key findings, I like to highlight that firstly, El Nino is not here yet in 2023. The recent heat wave that you've experienced and I have experienced so far is perhaps due to a lesser known weather phenomenon called the MJO or Maiden Julian Oscillation, as suggested by a weather expert that I read on the mainstream media last month. So MJO effect is short-term, likely between 30 to 60 days. So while we may feel like it's an El Nino phenomenon right now, it is not at this juncture. Nonetheless, weather models globally are attaching more than 50% probability of an El Nino returning in second half of this year, but it is still not a guarantee that it will happen. Coming back to our study on the past 5 El Ninos and the impact of on CPO price. So El Nino is generally positive for CPO price. And it's basically price friendly. However, it is not a linear uptrend relationship, from the start of El Nino over a 24 months period, which is the period we analyze. Shows you, the last 5 El Ninos and the impact of CPO prices. But I think you can see, over the last 25 years in general, CPO price has been uptrending. Right. So if you look at the more details, if I can share the in the next chart, in the next table, basically if you look at the monthly price CPO price traded range, right? I think the results will show you it's on basically a positive trend, but there are periods whereby prices traded negatively as well at the onset, relative to the onset of the El Nino. So monthly prices here range as low as minus 22% to as high as 159% over a 24-month period. And this is based on the study of 5 El Ninos. So even during the period of strong El Nino, which is in basically 1997, and basically year 2015, the top and the last one, both periods experienced an initial dip in CPO price by about 10% and 9% from the start of the El Nino before it trended higher. Interestingly, the second observation that we've made is that if you look at the CPO price volatility, now you realize that the CPO price at the first 3 El Ninos exhibited a much higher volatility compared to the last 2. So the first 3 was basically back in 1997, 2002, 2016, and the last 2 is 2009 and 2015. Now, why is it that price were more volatile in the initial 3 El Ninos? It could be that there are many reasons for it. So it's a confluence of factors and other major events that happen. So for instance, in the first 97 El Nino, that coincided with the period of Asian financial crisis. I'm sure you're still very young back then, but we experienced a capital control here in 1998. and the ringgit was was diving quite sharply. And then at the same time, Indonesia during the Asian financial crisis banned the export of palm oil for a period of 3 months before they introduced the 40% export tax for export of palm oil. So that impacted prices positively. In 2002 was the period whereby China ascended or joined the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and it experienced a sharp GDP growth after that, and that helped to push up prices as well. And in 2005, Europe started the ball rolling, mandating biofuel blend. In 2005, that was a structural change in demand for palm oil and other vegetable oils. So that El Nino, seemingly had a very big run, but there are other factors that impacting it as well. And in 2009, which is the post-global financial crisis, if you recall, US, even Europe and Japan went into a quantitative easing campaign that pushed up, commodity prices in general. I think the key message is this, Fifi, the El Nino is just one key factor impacting CPO price. So there are other factors impacting CPO price over a 24-month period. We believe the present macro concerns are bigger headwinds that could impact CPO price more in the short term than just El Nino.
Right. So in a way, can say that we cannot just give the reason of why CPO prices are changing just because of El Nino, right? It could be other external factors, as you mentioned just now. In the previous year, it was the economic crisis, the financial crisis, and also the fact that China has joined the WTO, which has some sort of impact on the CPO as well, which is very interesting to see. So in that case, right, do you think this will have a positive or negative impact on our local plantation stock prices then?
Yeah, so you can see from this KL Plantation Index performance during the last 5 El Ninos, I think the key message here is, it is a rather mixed performance. In 2 out of the 5 El Nino occurrences, the plantation index even posted negative returns in the initial 9 months. So in this table, the KL Plantation Index even posted negative returns in 1997 and again in 2015. These are periods of strong El Nino. So there was a huge divergence of the plantation index performance in 1997. Prices were moving up very sharply, if you can recall the last chart, but the plantation index were going down because we were suffering from the Asian financial crisis.
Yeah.
And plantation index was down by around 50% during that period. And in 2015, despite no major macro events, plantation index did not perform up to expectation. I believe this was due to ESG concerns. I'm not sure whether you recall, back in 2015, the region was, enveloped with haze. And politicians in the region even go to the extent of warning directors of plantation companies that they will be held responsible for the haze if they are found to be guilty.
Yes.
Now, plantation companies became convenient victims to me. And in 2015, the plantation index, KL Plantation Index, initially dipped as much as 10% before recovering after 12 months to close 4% higher compared to the onset of the El Nino. So I think whether this 2023 El Nino, if it happens, how will the market react to it? Will it again behave like it did in 2015? So we shall see.
Right. So I see from the report, in a way, you're still being neutral on the sector itself. But for our investors who are quite keen to invest in the sector, could you tell us a bit more on our preferred buys for the plantation sector area?
Yeah, our preferred buys in the region are KL Kepong, First Resources, and Bumitama. And in Malaysia, we also have another small to mid caps that we have a buy call, that is Ta'an. Now,
Mhm.
First Resources, Bumi Tama, and Ta'an have a common theme, which is they pay high dividend yield. They are high dividend yield stocks play, as they offer at least 5% in net dividend yields. This is backed by their net cash position or their low net gearing.
Right. Okay. So in a way, we are going for a high dividend yield stocks in this sense. Right. It was a very great stuff, cheating, and I'm sure there are a lot of other things that you want to cover. But unfortunately, these are the time that we have up to this point today. Before we close off, would you want to add on anything else, Mr. Cheating?
Yeah, just remember that El Nino is not here yet, so there is still a chance to play this thematic later. If El Nino is indeed confirmed sometime in the quarter this year. Now, in the meantime, so far the first quarter results season has not been inspiring for punters and share prices. And as we highlighted in the individual stock results review recently, this may still be the case for second quarter results that will be announced sometime in August.
Yeah.
Given the present CPO price and high fertilizer prices that was broadly locked in towards the end of last year, which is will continue to impact the second quarter performance.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Cheating. Well, and that's a wrap for today then, everyone. So, in a way, as what our analyst mentioned just now, El Nino is not here yet, so we still have plenty of time to think of our decision and to make our decision based on this thematic theme. Okay, to our audience tuning in today, you can get the latest market news and research from our social media channels. Our content is available on Telegram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Alternatively, if you are interested to find out how you can trade with Maybank, you can also reach out to our digital team or our remisiers and dealers to find out about more our services. If you enjoyed today's copy session, do consider dropping us a like or even subscribing, and we'll see you at the next one. Till then, this is Sofea signing off. Thank you, everyone.
Do 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 do.